Perfect. And we'll get started. So as I mentioned, my name is Janine Forsyth. I am the program manager for the Wyoming Apex Accelerator. Our entire mission, we are funded by the Department of Defense. So we talk about mission a lot. Our entire mission is to support businesses in selling their goods or services to the government. And while this might sound kind of simple, once you get into it, you realize that this is an incredibly complex world with its own language, its own cultural norms and ways of operating, some that are written and some that are unwritten. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But just know what I'm about to go through is a very basic overview. There's a lot more expertise and knowledge to be had by working with us as an Apex Accelerator client. We are available to provide free, no-cost services to any business located in the state of Wyoming. So just know your tax dollars have already paid for me. So please reach out if you need assistance, education, a shoulder to cry on, a cheerleader, whatever you need, we are here for you. You can see the word cloud on the screen. These are only some of the acronyms and terms and ideas that are centered around government contracting, and it can feel very, very overwhelming when you first start looking around at this stuff. What I want to say to you is go slow. Know that you are not the only one who does not know a lot of these things. Most of these things are very easy to look up, or you can always call us and we'll help walk you through some of these unknowns. And in no time, it's all going to seem like a second language to you. You will get it, I promise. But since it's government, you're going to run into a lot of acronyms, a lot of different phrases and sayings that maybe aren't used in our normal parlance. One of the most interesting and first one I like to touch on, before you even think about jumping in, head first to selling to the government, let's think a little bit about where your business falls into the world of offerings. A great way to do that is to look at the North American Industry Classification System, or your NAICS code. I also hear people just say NAICS. I hear people call it NAICS for some reason. I always say NAICS code. But whatever it is, these are very, very broad classifications that try to label essentially your business and what you do. So you can think about this as, on your mailing address, your NAICS code would be like the town that you live in. It's not the specific neighborhood or the specific house, it's just the town. So you can see how they're kind of mapped out here. All NAICS codes are 5 digits. This example, if you were a catering company, we would start with the 72 series, which is accommodation and food service. And then you can see how it kind of drills down. And finally, caterers would be that 722320. Now, it's not going to get as specific as you do barbecue or you do breakfast or you only do weddings, right? It's going to be just that broad classification. You're a caterer. Product service codes and federal supply codes are another great way to figure out where your business fits in the world. Not every kind of business is going to have a product service code or federal supply code that fits, but many, many do. And these codes are used very often by our government buyers to classify your business. And these do drill down a little bit more specifically. So it's nice to be armed as you walk into the world of government contracting, knowing your NAICS code and knowing any product, service, or federal supply codes that apply to you and what you do. And again, we can always help you look those up if you have any issues, but that's a great place to get started. That's going to arm you with some good knowledge. The next thing you want to understand is, do you qualify as a small business? Honestly, just about everyone we work with in the state of Wyoming, with very few exceptions, would qualify as a small business in their NAICS code. Whether or not you qualify as a small business is specific to that code, which is why I always coach, like, figure out your codes first, and that's going to open up lots of new knowledge for you. So each NAICS code has a designated size limit. These are set by the Small Business Administration, the SBA, our friends, which are on the line with us today, and it's based on either your annual receipts, how much money you're bringing in, or your number of employees, how many folks are working for you. So depending on what kind of business you are, what NAICS code you are, you're going to have a size standard. Anything below that size standard of X amount of dollars or X amount of employees would qualify as a small business. Anything above that would no longer qualify as a small business. And this is important because if you're thinking about either registering as a veteran-owned small business or going after contracts that are set aside only for small businesses, you better feel confident that you are indeed a small business, right? Yes. And again, any questions, feel free to interrupt. Pop them in the chat, pop them in the Q&A. All right, and Drew is going to go into this a lot more, so I'll just touch on it. But there are socioeconomic programs for small businesses, which is why once you know your NAICS, you know your PSCs, figure out whether you're small, then you can think about if any of these apply to you. There's woman-owned, small disadvantaged businesses, HUBZone, 8A, and then our service-disabled veteran-owned small business programs that Drew is going to mention in more detail. But you can see here that the federal government has a goal to spend at least 23% of their dollars with small businesses. They are specifically looking for you and they want to do business with you. To get set up for government contracting, the very next step, I think of SAM.gov, the System for Award Management, kind of like the DMV for driving. Everybody's got to go to the DMV if you want to drive a car. Right? You go to the DMV, you stand in line, you jump through the hoops, you do the bureaucratic paperwork, right? And then you have your driver's license, and then you get to decide where you drive, what kind of car you drive, if you go on to get other certifications like a CDL or a motorcycle. But everybody's got to file through the DMV. SAM.gov is exactly like that for government contracting. If you want to sell to any kind of federal government customer, you've got to go through SAM.gov. There's two parts to your registration. The first part, you're going to log in, provide some information about your business so they can verify that, yes, you're real, you actually exist, you're located where you say you are, and they'll assign you an entity ID number. Once you have that, you go back in, complete the second part of your registration, indicating that you're US owned and controlled. You can indicate your economic social status, like minority owned, woman owned, native owned, small disadvantaged business owned, indicate those in your SAM registration. You provide a way for the government to pay you. You have to put in a bank account number so that they can wire you funds if you get a job or an award. And once you complete all of that, you are then registered to go sell to the federal government. You've got your driver's license, and now you can go where you want to go and be strategic about your next steps. We at the Apex Accelerator here in Wyoming, we do SAM registrations literally every single day. We can help you with yours. You do not have to be on your own to do your SAM registration. It is a lot of bureaucratic hoop jumping, but the good news is we do it all the time, and we can help you troubleshoot any issues or just get through your registration as quickly as possible. I did see that we had one question in the chat. Is there a benefit to having more than one of the socioeconomic programs? That's a very great point. And Deb's answer is exactly right. If your business qualifies for more than one, there's no downside for applying for them. Yeah, that's right. If it doesn't, that's fine. But multiple certifications can be helpful in certain instances. If you are a woman and also a veteran, for example, having both your woman-owned and veteran-owned certifications will be helpful. It gives the government customer a nice snapshot idea of what your business is, what the ownership of your business is, and that you do fall into some of their categories for their goals. Perfect. I will mention here on this little slide, I know you're distracted by the cute beagle. He is adorable. But notice the DSBS, the Small Business, Dynamic Small Business Search. This is a database that's managed by the SBA that populates with information from your SAM registration. So once you get into SAM, you've got your driver's license, you're going to show up in this database. This database is used the way we used to use Yellow Pages, and some people still do, I think. A lot of us have moved online for that kind of functionality, but contracting officers, government buyers, and really the public can go into the dynamic small business search and find businesses in their area that do what they need them to do that are already registered to work with the government. So it's very, very helpful. Once you get into SAM, there is a way to go out into this database and even zhuzh up your profile. You can polish it up a little bit. You can add some good information to make it even stand out more. And that's something we can help you with as well. Okay, so you know your codes. You decided you're a small business, you got into SAM, you've identified your certifications. Now, who are you going to sell to? This is the next big question. And this is something we help clients with all the time. They come to us and say, well, I want to get into government contracting. And we say, okay, what government customer have you targeted? And they just say something like, well, I can sell anything to anyone. And that's great. And it's very rare that we see this sort of scattershot approach be really effective. It's a better idea to do the legwork, to do the market research, to take the time to identify who actually buys what you sell and who do you want to work with. If you try to do everybody all at once, that can be very, very difficult and overwhelming. You're going to get burned out very quickly and just say, okay, government contracting, it's not for me. But we can help you dial in to your agency targets. If you know that your specialization, for example, is weed-free hay, this is a real thing. Some of you might know about this. I'm going to suggest to you that we work with the Forest Service and the USDA, probably specifically around their wild horse programs, wild horse and burro programs, and some of their other government-funded programs that do require weed-free hay, which is actually quite difficult to come by. I don't think you're going to be successful trying to sell weed-free hay to the Air Force, for example, right? We need to identify who buys what you sell, how they buy it, how often. We can look into who got the contract last time. That is public information, so you sort of know who your competitors might be. There's a lot of information that you can find if you take the time to do this market research and figure out who your customer might be. I put a couple resources up on the screen. USA Spending, that's fantastic. It's a free website. They keep improving the functionality. It's pretty easy to do keyword searches out at USA Spending and start to get an idea of what that looks like. Some agencies put procurement forecasts on their websites where they literally tell you, in the next year, here's the stuff we're hoping to buy. And you can look through those periodically and see if anything fits what you do. We can look at expiring contracts, see what jobs were out there that are about to come to an end. Unseating an incumbent is not impossible, right? And if that's the direction you want to go, we can talk about that. Does anyone have questions about figuring out who their potential customers might be? I mean, I know that a lot goes into it, but you have an idea now where you can find that information? Good. Great. I was really on a dog kick when I put this together. I mean, let's face it, I'm a dog person every day. All right. Oh, but look, it's a cat and mouse. I was equal opportunity that day when I put together these slides. All right, we're going to identify some opportunities now. We know who we are, where we fit. We know who our customers are. Now we need to figure out what are we going to target? What are we going to jump on? And there are lots of different places that you can find open bids. Lots of different places you can find government jobs. This is my short list that I suggest to most of our clients. SAM.gov, the DMV, the same place you went and registered to work with the government. They are also required to post anything over $25,000 on SAM.gov. Anything that's federal over 25K will be posted on SAM.gov under contract opportunities. At the Apex for free, we can walk you through how to find that. Periodically, we do webinars like today's, but just focused around using SAM.gov to look at bid opportunities. The Defense Logistics Agency, these are the folks that supply our warfighters with every single thing they need, from toothbrushes to weapons to everything else. The DLA uses their own system. It's called DIBS, the Defense Internet Bid Board System. So if you think you might have something that will be used by the warfighter, this would be a good place to register. A little bit more difficult to track down are the smaller purchases under 10 grand. These are typically used with government purchase cards or a government issued credit card. They don't have to post these opportunities online. So these are a little bit harder to find, but there are some ways to drill down. So if you know that what you sell or the service you provide might typically fall under that threshold, let us know and we can talk about some strategic ways to find those purchases. A good thing here at the Apex, we do offer a free bid match for our clients. All this is, we type up a little keyword search based on what you do. Say you're the weed-free hay person. We're going to type up a keyword with weed-free hay, livestock care, things like that. Every day, that bid match will go out to the internet and scrape up any government solicitations that meet your capabilities, and you get an email in your inbox. So you don't have to go search a whole bunch of different websites to find jobs that apply to you. If you like, we can set you up with a free bid match service through the Apex Accelerator. And if you're not located in Wyoming, the other states' Apex Accelerators do offer bid match services as well. Some charge for them and some don't. Here in Wyoming, we're lucky enough we don't have to charge for ours. The last website that I typically recommend folks get familiar with is Public Purchase. This is a website that's used by lots of state and local governments. For some of our folks, state and local is where you start. Sometimes that might be where you stay. That might be where your government customer lives. Public Purchase is a great place to start looking at those jobs. And there's lots more out there, but this is kind of your good primer, getting started right away. And you don't have to be registered in SAM, I should mention, to go out on SAM and look at contract opportunities. If you are just curious, you can head out there. Oh, and Adam says they've gotten some jobs from Public Purchase. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yeah. I know the state of Wyoming puts all of their work on Public Purchase. Wyoming Department of Transportation is on Public Purchase. There are lots of city and county governments that use it as well. Great. Another thing that you'll hear about a lot in government contracting is something called a capability statement. The capability statement functions for your business the same way a resume might function for an individual applying for jobs. The capability statement is usually a one-page document. It's going to have all the contact information about your business. It's going to have that NAICS code that you identified in the beginning, any product service codes. You'll have your SAM ID numbers and codes, address, phone number, all that fun stuff. And then you're going to list your core capabilities. These are the things that your business does and is good at. Ideally, these are going to be things that you've done before, either for government customers or in the commercial space, right? And we can talk about that when you call us for any free advising or anything. What's going to set you up for the most success? You need to be really good at what you do. The government is notoriously risk adverse. So they are going to look at this document and they want to see this as evidence that not only do you talk the talk, you walk the walk, you've done this before. Maybe some of your customers, you can see on this capability statement, under past performance, they have the logos of their customers, which I'm sure they got permission to use because we always do that, right? But this tells me at a glance, okay, Bluesun Technologies, they're located in this place, they're registered in SAM, they're minority owned, small disadvantaged business. They have some other certifications there. I know all their codes. I know who they've worked with before, and I have a nice bullet pointed list of what they do and what they do well. For a busy contracting officer, this is the snapshot of information I would need in order to say, yeah, we might work with them, or, circular file on the floor. It's very, very normal if you go to any kind of government contracting conferences or matchmaking workshops for folks to say, all right, give me your capability statement or email me your capability statement. That's a very, very typical thing. So it's nice to have a nice polished one waiting in the wings, maybe some printed copies, maybe a nice shareable PDF. Some companies even put a version of their capability statement right on their website. And that can be helpful for you just depending on your government customer targets. But this is one thing you want to at least know what folks are referring to if they ask you for a capability statement. And of course, at the Apex, we also help you put these together. You can also Google, government contracting capability statement and see tons and tons of examples and templates and ideas for your own. One last little word. So if you moved through all of these slides and you've been keeping up, you follow all these steps, you're set up now. And we want to think about, okay, so we're all set up, we're ready to go. How do folks know about us? How do they know that I'm here and I have the weed-free hay and I'm really great at it and I've done it before? There are ways to market to government customers. And again, most of these slides could be their own big hour-long webinar, so I'm just touching on this briefly. But you can think about things like most federal agencies have an Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, or an OSDBU, which that it's so silly to say the acronym out loud like that, but that's what you'll hear. You'll hear people saying the OSDBU. These are, you know, folks that their whole goal, their whole reason for living is to connect their agency with small disadvantaged businesses, so that they're providing some of those dollars to these businesses. So if you qualify, you want to make friends with these folks, you want to reach out, you want them to have your capability statement, you want to know who they are, you want to know if there are conferences they often go to, can you show up there, that sort of thing. Any networking or agency outreach events are good. Lots and lots of them are online now, but typically they're going to use a Zoom format or a Teams format where there is some opportunity to at least hop into a chat and introduce yourself and your business, or you can get contact information from folks. There are in-person government contracting conferences. I know the DOD, the Air Force is having their contracting summit in February, I think in Orlando, Florida, and that will have lots of large contractors, small contractors, government contracting professionals all coming together in one place specifically to talk about working with the Air Force. So if the Air Force were one of your customers, I would say you should think about making it to this if you can. Social media, online marketing, word of mouth. Government customers are just human beings. At the end of the day, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. They are on LinkedIn. They are Googling you when they get your capability statement. They are listening to their peers and colleagues. Hey, did you happen to ever work with an electrician in Cheyenne? Oh yeah, I worked with this person. Great, I'm going to call that person up. They do that too. So be mindful about networking, showing up where your customers tend to show up. And that's good advice, you know, whether you're working with government or commercial space. The last thing I'll mention is a lot of our big prime contractors. These are the Northrop Grummans of the world, the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins, the Halliburtons, right? These big folks. They often will have one or many dedicated positions that are called small business liaison officers. And their whole reason for existing is to make sure that this large company is subcontracting with small businesses. So if you truly are just dipping your toe into government contracting, if you're just getting started, you may find that being a subcontractor or a vendor or supplier is a great way to enter this world. So you're going to want to make friends with the SBLOs at the big prime companies that you hope to work with. And periodically, we do have these folks present for us. We've been, Northrop Grumman, their SBLO that's located in Montana, has presented for us several times in the last couple of years. She will often be at our events here in Wyoming and other regional events. So watch out for those folks too, and just have an awareness of if someone says, oh, that's the SBLO for Lockheed Martin, you can say, oh, I know what that means, right? They want to work with small businesses. Okay. And just a reminder, we're here, we're free. You've paid for us already, so please use us. And if you're not in Wyoming, find the Apex Accelerator that is in your state. It can really just be as simple as Googling your state and then Apex Accelerator. And it'll come up and you can find them and figure out how to contact them. And here are our contact information. And I always include Deb Ferris because, of course, we partner with the SBA, the Wyoming District Office, so much. We work together collaboratively to provide these, not only these trainings to you, but resources and information. And Deb is on the line today. You may have seen her answering some questions in the chat. Thank you, Deb. But then myself and Sarah Mikesell-Growney, who is the procurement advisor, we are the two Apex Accelerator staff for the whole state of Wyoming. And we're happy to help. All right. Before I turn this over to Drew and Yolanda, Any other questions that I can answer about government contracting? I know that was a pretty fast surface level overview, but hopefully you have some understanding now of some basic terminology and you know where to get resources and support. Any questions for me? Okay, well, feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A if you have them. And Drew, I will go ahead and defer to you so you can introduce Yolanda and talk a little bit about certifications. And you just boss me around, Drew, when you want me to change the slide, and we'll advance them.
Awesome. So before I go into the overview of the veteran certifications through the SBA, over the past couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to get to know Yolanda and her business and what she does. She's the owner of Powder River Industries. She does a lot of work with the DoD, the DOE, and the IT sector. So Yolanda, if you want to, go ahead and let us know a little bit about your company and how those certifications that you have helped you get to where you're at now.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Janine, as well. That was a great presentation. I'm Yolanda Clark. I grew up in Sheridan, joined the military right out of high school. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Not just, okay, good. So I joined the military right out of high school. As life happens, I ended up getting married to an active duty guy. My husband is still active duty in the Marine Corps. I'm still in the Army Reserves. And it came to be that in our life, starting a business seemed like the best idea, which is, kind of crazy if you think about it. And I had been working in my industry for a long time, felt like a long time to me at the time. Had come into contact with a lot of small businesses. And so that was a great, idea material to just kind of understand what other people were doing, what was possible. But I really had no idea where to start. So I just started searching and, you always have it when you join the military, you always have this idea that you're going to go back home. So I started looking in Wyoming with that thought in mind, and came across Deb Ferris at the SBA in Casper. Then started following her and anything and everything she put out. Everything she put out, I researched, and I would learn and read and try to understand as much as I could about what she was doing. So when I did start my business, I knew that I was going to go down this path. I knew customer wise, we were always going to be near the DoD. I knew that what I sell is in the IT space, what I can do well, what customers might buy from me. And that my buyers would have to buy a certain way. And that's what Deb was an expert on, and the SBA is an expert on, is how our federal government buys things. So through the course of that research, I learned about all the small business certifications, and just started working down each one like a punch list, like a job. What are the requirements? What do I qualify? If so, what do I have to show as evidence for that? What's the process? And that was, I started that about 8 years ago. I'll try to be brief and short in the response about what the value of it is, but because it is my life, is what I do every day. It's what I've been doing every day for the last 8 years, nearly. So I did get my company certified, third party verified is a term you hear, because a long time ago, there used to be a number of different certifying bodies. Now, thank God, the SBA is doing it all. So we are a WOSB, a woman-owned small business and economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. So EDWSB, we are AA, we are a HUBZone, we are a state certified DBE, and we are an SDVOSB. And so those don't happen overnight. Janine said, go slow. you're working with the government, you don't have a choice. It will be slow. So just to set the expectations, there's nothing about the process goes fast. So I just did one at a time. The value of doing that, I guess, it created a positioning or a profile of my company that buyers are looking at. My specific buyers are looking at. It doesn't matter what the commercial world thinks or what, Amazon is doing, Google's doing, Facebook's doing. I don't care. That my buyers don't care about Google ads. They care about what's in DSBS. And so it created a really good marketing tool, really, to get visibility, to at least get one chance to make a good first impression. Over, you're on mute, Drew.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Yolanda. So going into the SBA, the SBA's purpose is to start, grow, expand, and recover small businesses. And one of the things that the federal government has done is set aside contracts for social disadvantaged businesses. The goal for fiscal year 25 is going to be 15%. And one of the ways that the SBA does that is to help veterans and service disabled veterans get certified to get those set aside contracts. Next slide. So once you get the certifications, it qualifies a business to get the set aside opportunities to build and grow capacity and establish joint ventures. One of the key things is the VA has a Vets First program where it's set aside 7% of their contracts to go to service disabled veteran companies. Another thing that I've seen is that these certifications are kind of bleeding over into the private sector with companies looking to do business with the large energy companies in Wyoming. I have seen that certification helps them get into those large MSAs, and it goes to their capability statement. It's their company's resume, so to speak. So they can take those to those larger companies that are looking to do business with companies that are certified. And this is a federal certification that can be used for that. Next slide. So the benefits of getting certified: all federal purchases between $10,000 and $250,000 are automatically set aside for small businesses. Like I said, the VA sets aside 7% of their contracts for the veteran certified and service disabled veteran certified. And for the service disabled veteran certified, it's going to be 3% of all federal contract dollars are set aside. Next slide. One more time. So the service disabled veteran certified certification, you have to think, is it appropriate for you? When you go for these certifications, whether it be veteran or service disabled veteran, the key thing is you have to be 51% ownership. You have to be one of the highest managing positions. You have to take the managerial role in the business, and you have to have the proper NAICS codes. One more time, Janine. And you have to manage the daily operations. So if all of those boxes are checked, then you do qualify for the service disabled and the veteran owned small business. One of the things that I've looked into or come across lately is you have veterans that want to get these certifications, but they're in ownership with their spouses, and it's a 50-50 split. When we come up with that, it's got to be the 51% ownership. It can't be the 50-50, and that's a hard line in the sand on that one. Next slide. So getting these certifications, it helps with government contracting to qualify a firm to receive set aside or sole source contract awards. And every agency has their own goals to meet for those awards in those specific fields. It facilitates opportunities, increases growth potential by establishing joint ventures, whether it be prime contractors with subs and the mentor protege agreement. More prime and subcontracting opportunities through registration at vetbiz.va.gov. And this will help the VA reach that 7% target that they have for their annual goals. Next slide. So to start the registration process, you'll go to veterans.certified.sba.gov. And it's pretty straightforward at this point. Even though you are a service disabled veteran, you have to do the Veteran Small Business Certification first. And once you start the vet cert process, within there, you will have the option to go and apply for the service disabled veterans owned small business certification as well. Next slide. So once you get registered as or certified as a veteran owned or service disabled veteran owned small business, there are a lot of entrepreneurship training programs that are funded by the VA. To start off, it's Boots of Business that we participate with the VBOC, the Boots to Business Reboot. So the B2B is in the TAPS class, and that is when transitioning from military to civilian. The reboot is after the military personnel has transitioned to the civilian world. Then we put the reboots into place, and that can cover the veteran and spouses. The Boots to Business Revenue Readiness, that is offered through, I believe it's the Mississippi State. For women veteran entrepreneurship training programs, the VA has funded through the IVMF, the LIFT Fund, the ONABAN. For service disabled veteran entrepreneurship training program, the VA has provided funds through the VEP, the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans through St. Joseph University, Warrior Rising, Veteran Entrepreneurial Training and Resource Network. And one of the key things is getting into government contracting is a very long process, but there's a lot of resources to help with that transition into expanding your business into government contracting. The Veteran Procurement, Federal Procurement Entrepreneurship Training Program, or VIP, Veteran Institute for Procurement, is fully funded for veterans that qualify to attend that training. Next slide. So if you have any questions, you can contact me at the Wyoming District Office. I know Deb is a huge, she's an invaluable resource for us in the contracting field. We can answer all those questions, and the Apex Accelerator is phenomenal with what that they do and how we can work as a team to get you into that government contracting position. Are there any questions?
Great, thank you, Drew. Yeah, any questions for Drew or Yolanda? I think that this would be a great time. Yolanda, if you're still up for answering some questions. Oh, I think
Sure.
she's
Yeah,
here.
I was happy to see the VIP on there. I just gotta double tap on that one. Their content is awesome.
Good to know.
Awesome.
Good to know. While folks are thinking about questions, if they have them, go ahead and throw them in the chat, or you can unmute and ask. Yolanda, we asked this of our guests on Tuesday as well. What advice would you give to someone who was thinking about doing what you did, thinking about jumping into small business ownership? Is there anything you wish you had known, or what would be your main piece of advice for folks?
It tends to be contradictory to what every Apex Accelerator recommends, so I
That's okay.
apologize.
No, we love all perspectives here.
You have to bid. You can't like so being a military family and still being an active duty military family, we get orders, we move, we're in a new place, I meet a new Apex Accelerator or Legacy PTech. And historically, and I haven't had the privilege to work with you yet, Janine, but historically, the guidance I would get was, oh, you need to build relationships. You got to know the SBLO, you got to know the PM or whatever. And as a military spouse, like I don't have time. I'm not going to be here long enough to build a relationship. So that was like really unhelpful for me in our particular situation. I think it's also hard for Wyoming-based companies because there aren't a lot of buyers directly in Wyoming for federal work, right? So I think my advice is bid. Like you will not get a contract if you don't write a proposal. And most of the PTECs would say not to do that, or the legacy PTECs, legacy or current Apex from other locations. Even just going through the process, it focuses your mind on what you have to do, on the stuff that really matters. Because there's a lot of noise out there in entrepreneur land and startup land about all the things you're supposed to be doing. And none of it matters except what's in the RFP and what you have to deliver and what your customer wants and whether or not you can do it. And even if along the way you realize, oh, I can't do that, you learned something, you learned a lot, you got organized and you started moving in the direction of delivery on your contract. And then you do it again and you do it again. And you do it again. Because it's never just a one and done. You have to keep bidding to work out. You got to do it.
That's really, really good advice, actually. Yeah. I can see that. It's the Wayne Gretzky approach, right? Yolanda, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That is exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. I love it.
Well, and that content, and if I could take that thought further, the content that you create as you're developing your response, you can use that for your capability statement. I remember when I was starting, that was a really big mystery, is like, what do I even put in my capability statement? There was so much uncertainty, and was I doing it right? And is this what my buyer really wanted? Well, the buyer is asking you in that RFP or RFQ what they want. So it's really helpful and validating when you're reading that and you go, oh yeah, I can do that. Now you know what to put in your capability statement, what you put on your website. You can create social media out of it. Like it's the whole point of what we're doing.
Right. Makes complete sense. We do have a question for you, Yolanda, in the chat. Would you share your experience with applying for certification? I think Deb's referring specifically to the veteran certification. Was it positive? Was it long? Any tips or hints for other folks?
Yeah, I'll try not to be a salty old veteran curmudgeon on the certification process. Today, it's awesome. And I'm not blowing smoke. Like the process is great. The interface is really nice. the way you make it easy, thanks, Deb. The way you make it easy for yourself, or as easy as possible, is to look at the requirements and get your files organized into one spot. So like I have each one of my certifications, I have a folder for, and then inside that I have all of my files that I have to support that's a requirement that has to demonstrate and prove that I'm SDVOSB, like your DD 254, or sorry, that's a facility clearance stuff, DD 214. Sorry, you can tell I'm in the DoD. So DD 214 for, proof that you're a veteran. Financials, you got to have your most current profit and loss statements, balance statements. So if you don't have those, you're going to need them, and you'll need to have those, I think, for 2 or 3 years. I'm pretty sure it's 3 years in arrears. And if you don't have that much past performance, that's okay. If you're only a year old or 2 years old, you just give them what you have. And if your files are organized, you'll be good to go, and you just submit. The one thing I will add, and I did send Sam an email today to the service desk. Sam is not pulling over SBA WOSB or SDVOSB certifications into your profile right now. So I sent an email today to the service desk asking if they could do it manually. I don't know if they can or can't, but just the process is, it really is not, it takes probably less than an hour if you have all your files organized. The other tip I'd say is, in your file name your file what they're asking for. So that will speed your process up, because they have a checklist and they're just running through the checklist. If they have to open up each folder or each file and guess what that document is, it's going to be hard. They're going to have questions. It's going to slow it down. So name your files what they're asking for.
That is excellent advice. I also give that to folks when we put together application packets. Make it as easy as possible for these busy people to see that you did what they asked you to do. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before everyone heads out, please think of any more questions. And I'm also going to launch just a very brief poll. We're interested to know how you heard about this today. So if you wouldn't mind just choosing one of these options, you can also give us more details in the chat. But go ahead and select the answer. Great. Looks like just about everyone has chimed in. I'll give it one more second. Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much for participating. And if you like, you can even see the results there. Looks pretty even across the board. Lovely. All right. Any other questions, or Deb or Amy, if you have anything you would like to add? I will go ahead and add Drew. Great job. Drew's pretty new to our team, and you wouldn't know it from today's presentation. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Oh, yep. I'm getting a question in the chat for my contact information. Absolutely. Get that into the chat. Any other questions, thoughts? Oh, Deb and Amy want to say thank you for your service. We appreciate our veterans so much. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for your service. Beautiful. Yeah, it's the week of Veterans Day. There's a lot of events going on, not only around the state, but around the nation. So if you have a chance to participate in anything, I hope it's lovely. Perfect. All right. Well, I will go ahead and end our time together today, but you know where to find us if you need us. Please don't be a stranger. We'd love to hear from you. Deep thanks to Yolanda for your time today. You know, it's one thing to hear from us government folks about things. It's another thing to hear from someone who's actually boots on the ground doing the work. has jumped through all the hoops. So we really, really appreciate your time. And we appreciated the time of Adam and Dustin on Tuesday. And I'll be sure to send the slides and the recordings out to everyone who registered. All righty. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.